Hi there. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Good to be here. Ed Ponsi, your FX educator here on behalf of FX Street. One more time. Here we go. It's Tuesday. It's April the 19th. We've got two big shows coming up today. This is just the first one, so we have a lot of time together and plenty of ground to cover. So if you have any questions at all, anything at all, I don't care if it's technical. It could have to do with charts, chart patterns, indicators, any other aspect of technical analysis, that's fine. Or if you want to talk about fundamentals, we'll talk about anything regarding the fundamentals of a currency. Maybe you'd like me to chart a currency pair that you've got your eye on. Maybe you'd like to talk about risk management. All of these things, right, we can do today. So feel free if you do have anything at all that you'd like to discuss. I am more than happy to answer any questions you might have, or at the very least, I'll give it my best shot. Okay, so let's get started. And first, I just wanted to start out with some of the stuff here on ZEW. ZEW is kind of mixed, actually. The economic situation, economic sentiment, way better than for ZEW. That's a pretty big beat. Your expectation for economic sentiment was 8.0, and the result was 11.2. So that's a pretty healthy beat. The current situation number worse than expected. Looking for 51. And it came out at only 47.7, so pretty big discrepancy on both numbers, but I believe the market cares more about the sentiment index. But let's take a look at the euro, and let's see how it behaved, right? Maybe that can give us some insight. We'll take a look at how this currency pair behaved when the news was released. By the way, when I look at this, technically speaking, right, we've just been going sideways now for over a year, but we do have MACD trending higher. I don't know if you notice this or not, or if you can see this, but we have a low, higher lows, higher lows. It looks like it wants to go higher. Quite frankly, that's what this chart is saying. So let's get rid of this MACD and all the other stuff here. And let's just go to a 5-minute chart, because it's very interesting. It can be very informative to sort of reverse engineer a currency pair to a certain time of day to see how it reacted at that moment. Now, right here is where the ZEW comes out, and you can see there really was not much of a change. Euro probably jumped up maybe 20 pips. So really not a big reaction to ZEW. And I can tell you that's actually a little bit unusual, or maybe not unusual, but this is the way that things are heading. That a lot of the stuff, a lot of the indicators, a lot of the economic indicators that used to lead to big jumps in the market one way or the other, a lot of that is now no longer creates the type of movement that it used to. And the biggest moves in the market these days are not even from non-farm payroll, if you can believe it. Right? Even non-farm payroll does not create the moves that it used to. What creates the biggest moves out there? The biggest moves out there are created by speeches from Mario Draghi and Janet Yellen. Right? That's particularly Draghi. That's just where we are today. That's where we've sort of evolved to that point in the world of currency trading. So we used to warn people about non-farm payroll. Non-farm payroll has actually been pretty uneventful. It's the Yellen speeches and the Draghi speeches that create the real excitement these days. I'm going to take this to the daily. I'm going to push this back just a little bit. You can see that 114 is such a key area. I can go way back and say, look at all this activity at 114. It's like this is where euro goes, just keeps hitting a brick wall in this general area, and we're heading back up toward it again, back up toward that 114 area one more time. So lots of trouble technically in this area. But you'll notice that the euro has been gradually getting stronger from 106 in December up to 113 now. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the dollar. The US dollar has been the big story this year. You can see the lower highs, the lower lows, and the moment of truth is coming up quickly for the US dollar. The US dollar 93 is the key critical area to see whether or not we really seriously go into dollar weakness. It's been a dollar weakness has been one of the themes this year. And that's interesting in and of itself, but true dollar weakness would come on a break under 93. You just back it up, you can see how important that area is and how quickly we could fall if 93 does break. Could it go all the way down to 80? I suppose it could. I don't know if that's going to happen, but nothing surprises you in this market, right? You know, Carlos says, in all fairness, the range of Euro USD has not changed since January 2016. True, Carlos, and I'll say maybe since January 2015. Right? If we take it back far enough. Okay, maybe not January 2015, but maybe, right? The upper end, right, since the start of 2015 is up here, this 115-ish area. Since is that January? Yes, it is. That's January up here. So you could almost say it's been, 1 1/3 years we've been stuck in this mire here. But it looks like it's pushing up. And I've one of the things I said at the beginning of this year is that the one thing that nobody really expects is a strong euro this year. And at the beginning of this year, you might recall, everybody was saying the euro was going to parity. All the analysts were saying. Nobody was really calling for a strong euro. But at the time, the market was overwhelmingly short euros. And I think that had a lot to do with that type of belief that, it's when you have everybody on one side of the trade, there's almost nowhere else to go except to the other side of the trade. 2015, Carlos. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Anyway, all good. You and I agree on that, Carlos. Great minds think alike. Okay. We definitely agree on that. So let's take a look. I think it would be interesting to look at the COT report. Today's Tuesday. So we get a new COT every Friday. And the way that I pull them up, if you go to Google and just type in the word COT report, right, commitment of traders, what I'm looking for is futures only, CME futures only. And there we go. Right, you click there and you've got, it always starts out with butter and milk, which is, hey, if you're a New Zealand dairy farmer, you probably care about that a great deal. Butter and milk, right? But let's move down to the euro. We'll check out the euro. And the euro, we definitely have more shorts than longs, but the ratio is not overwhelming. It's not by an overwhelming ratio, 141.267 to 89.216. So what I like to look for is I like to look for situations where we're very far out of balance. And I don't see it right here. By the way, we always look at the non-commercials. Who are they? Those are large speculators, right? If you're a small speculator, you fall under this category, non-reportable. Non-reportable, those are the small specs, small speculators. Like you and me, most likely, right? And large speculators means, you've got to, you're so big that you have to report your position to the CME. All right, so the little folks are over here, the big folks are over here, and you can see, 141,000 short versus 89,000 long. Not a huge imbalance, not a big imbalance. on the euro. British pound might be interesting. What a lot of people are referring to is now in the UK as Project Fear is where all the news media try to frighten people about Brexit and how the UK is going to fall into the ocean. Well, if they leave Europe, which is absurd. How long was Great Britain a power independent of Europe? How long have they been in the European Union? Weigh those things against each other, and it's absurd. But the shorts outnumber the longs almost 3-1 here. 2.5 to 1. 85,000 contracts short, 33,000 long. That tells me that that's a fairly significant imbalance to the short side. In other words, the market is leaning short. The market is leaning short. At some point, if the British pound starts to go up, you could see a big short covering rally because of this. Let's take a look. So anyway, that's the British pound scenario. That long seems to have the advantage. Now, where does long have the advantage? 140. Where is the British pound right now? 140 has been support for 30 years. Okay, so since well before I placed my first trade, look at 140 has been support since 1987, it looks like. So we're not particularly, I'm thinking if this gets down to 140, it's a buy. You can see we just popped out of there again recently, and 140 since the beginning of March for the last month and a half. So I think buying British pound near 140 is the move to make, and ignore that fear. Japanese yen is exactly 3-1, or almost exactly 3-1. You have 100,000 contracts. Yen goes higher on its own, or if it doesn't go higher on its own, Bank of Japan pushes it higher. So either way, I think dollar yen goes higher. And this positioning where everyone's long, not everyone, 3-1, they're long this contract means you're also going to see short covering as well. You're also going to see short covering. So how anyone, I can understand maybe you don't want to go long, but how anyone could go short this in the face of the BOJ, to me, just seems unnecessarily risky. Let's put it that way. I won't say foolish. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but it seems unnecessarily risky. I'm not saying it can't work. Of course it could work. But it just seems like a big risk. That feeling when the Bank of Japan intervenes and you're on the other side of the trade and you can't get out because it's going too fast, and it just moved 100 pips and it just shot past your stop because it all happened so quick. Yeah, that feeling. Right? I don't want to have that feeling. Let's take a look at Aussie while we're down here. 90 to 55 tells me there's not a major imbalance on Aussie right now. Not a major imbalance. But the market is leaning toward the long side, but not overwhelmingly so. How about New Zealand? New Zealand is almost 50-50 long short. That's also true on the non-reportable side as well. All right. Speaking of New Zealand, I think we had an auction this morning, so we'll check on that next. Carlos says my gold trade did not work. My stop loss got hit. New Zealand USD is working. Do you see it going to 74.50 on the monthly? Let's take a look at New Zealand. First of all, wow, New Zealand through 70 cents. That's just a big liftoff, right, on New Zealand. That's the first time New Zealand gets above 70 cents since last summer, if you live here in the northern hemisphere as I do. It's been almost a year, let's put it that way. And it just exploded. By the way, if you're not aware of it, the Prime Minister of New Zealand is a currency trader. That's right, John Key, Prime Minister of New Zealand, I believe used to run the Merrill Lynch Forex desk in New York. I'm not sure. Let's take a look at New Zealand USD here on the monthly. Do you see it going to 74.50? That's a huge breakout. I'm going to pull it up the monthly here, Carlos, because Carlos is looking at the monthly. And you can see on the monthly here, it really does look like just a big double bottom pattern and a straight line up here. I think, like, based on this time frame, I would say it could go to above 74.50. I think here's your resistance area. No, you're right, 74.50. This is your resistance area here. So yeah, 74.50-ish, absolutely. That actually looks like a pretty good target. Of course, you know me, I would probably take some profit along the way. Look at Carlos, looking at the really long time frames, though. There you can see that double bottom on the weekly as well, right? It really shines there. And even on this time frame, you could say, well, at least 73, if not 74.50. You know, at least 73. So room to run for New Zealand. This is a breakout. This is a breakout. This has not been, New Zealand, Kiwi has not been this high in nearly a year. And if you look at the way it came down, look at it, red, 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 nothing but red candles, right? So you could see, we love to see that, because when the price falls in a sort of like a straight line like that, it doesn't really have a chance to create support and resistance levels if it's just dropping like a brick, right? What creates support and resistance levels is that back and forth price action. Some would refer to that as backing and filling. That's an old school term for that. But if the price just moves in a straight line through an area, the belief is that it could then move in a straight line in the other direction through the area, because this falls so quickly that it doesn't really create a lot of levels. There's nothing that was created in here that would stop it from rising. So you have all this noise in here. New Zealand has just broken free of all this activity. You could get a straight line run to 74-ish. It's not far-fetched at all. Okay, wonderful chart. So that we've looked at the COTs, and one of the things also I wanted to visit here, I wanted to see if we had any result on that milk auction. Just a second. Dairy auction. That's what I get for not using Google. Okay. There we go. So this is April 5th. So I believe we have another one today. Generally, it's always held on a Tuesday, and it's every 2 weeks. So we don't have today's result yet, but it looks like, you know, the most recent one from 2 weeks ago, we saw a slight increase. So with New Zealand dollar popping like it is today, you got to wonder if we're not expecting a big increase in milk prices or in dairy prices today. Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all. The campaign against Yahoo expands. You know, Yahoo's such a joke. Just to get off track for a second here. The chart actually looks like something good is going to happen. Big double bottom, and it pops out of that double bottom. And of course, they're trying to sell this company. And Yahoo has just become a joke over the last few years. You know, Google has just run them out of business pretty much. They still have some valuable properties, but you know, it's just a weird amalgamation of things, and it doesn't work together. And it's hard to see how Yahoo would continue to survive. So, yeah, Verizon might buy Yahoo is the rumor, and there are all kinds of rumors swirling about potential takeover candidates. But even one buyer, I forget which company it is, stepped down yesterday and said, we're not going to buy them because we don't know what to do with all this. I mean, it's a huge mess, you know? And so I can't say that I blame them. Yikes, right? All right, let's get back. Do you wait for the pullback to get in, Ahmed? Yeah, if you wanted to buy New Zealand USD, Ahmed, I would wait for the pullback to get in. I mean, if you look at this is now way up. Now, the first thing when I see something trending this well, the first thing I want to look at is I want to see if there's any type of activity on the moving averages. You can clearly say the answer is no here on the 10-day. I'll change that 10 to a 20. These are exponential moving averages, by the way. The 20, not really. The price has no respect for this 20-day moving average until very recently. So maybe you could say if it pulls back to here, but that's a long way back, right? If it comes back to maybe 68.50, it'll come back to that moving average, and the 20-day exponential moving average, that might be worth a look. But yeah, do you wait for the pullback? Yeah, I would. I mean, there's no other way to trade it. You know, if you look at this also, right? I'll go to a shorter time frame with you here. On the 4-hour chart, you're going to be able to see a really clear resistance level, these sort of twin peaks here. 69.50. Resistance, resistance, resistance. This breaks, it should become support. So if we pull back to 69.50, right? If we pull back to 69.50, then there's one way to get your pullback on New Zealand USD, because this should act as support now. But man, is it going. And it's definitely overbought on the short. I haven't even looked at this on the short term, but I'd be willing to bet on the hourly that this is overbought. We'll pull up RSI. Yeah, it's overbought on the hourly. So you really don't want to buy it right now. At least that's not my way of approaching this. I would wait for the pullback. Absolutely agree with that. Abdul, good call. Okay, so look at that. That's an almost frightening looking breakout there on New Zealand. Can you look at silver, please? Yes, I would love to look at silver. Silver continuous contract having a big breakout here. This looks rather like, to me, a cup. And you can see the little handle here. And it breaks out and it fails. I'm going to call this chart one cup, two handles. How's that? Cup, handle, explosion on silver. Okay. That is a bold move today. And you can see even on the daily, it's overbought now for the first time since February. Someone gets that joke. Don't ask me to elaborate. Gold. Gold, look how gold is not at all doing the same thing, though. Gold, you have that big cup, but where's the handle? Where's the breakout? It's almost like silver, and we've said this before, a lot of times when gold goes on a run, it'll leave silver behind, and then silver will accelerate to catch up. But that move on silver is absolutely wild. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but man, that's crazy stuff. Okay, testing the new Saxo Trader Go platform. Like it very much. Carlos, I only have I'm only a U.S. citizen. Am I even allowed to use that? Because I don't think Saxo's doing business in the U.S. I don't think they're regulated, and as an American, I'm not allowed to move my money overseas. So, yeah, it would have to be a demo. I used Saxo way back when they used to have you think about how many companies used to be in the U.S. that are no longer here, right? There's Saxo, FXDD, ACM, AC Markets, right? And man, there were so many of them. There was one based up in Michigan that was actually a pretty big one. The symbol of the company was the horse from a game of chess, the knight. Can't remember the name of that. But it's scary to think about how many companies ceased to do business in the U.S. simply because the U.S. is not really a business-friendly country, which is a very weird thing to say, but true. Can't open the account either. Yeah, right. Now, if you have a dual citizenship, what I like to tell people in the U.S. is like for example, if you have a dual citizenship, then the American side, as an American, you cannot open an account overseas. But if you're a citizen of the U.S. and say Brazil, then yeah, you can. All right, that's your loophole. So a lot of Americans who have dual citizenship do have a loophole there that they can use. Not me though, and not Carlos either, apparently. Anyway, brilliant chart on silver. Let's look at copper. Copper isn't really doing too much. At least it's off of its lows. But that's a brutal chart. For years, for the last 5 years, copper's been trending lower. And China stopped building all those ghost cities, right? But at least in this year, we have higher highs and higher lows. I would call this a higher low compared to here and here. So copper is moving up, but silver seems to have its own agenda today, which is pretty interesting. Okay. And so when you look at the futures, the metals very often run together. So it's not unusual if silver is jumping. You would think that gold and copper might be jumping too, but that is not the case. That is not the case at all. Interestingly enough. Let's take a look. We're down to the last minute already. Where does the time go when we do these things? Where does it go? We'll keep an eye up on the global dairy trade results. And today, what do we have coming up? Within a moment or two, we get housing starts and building permits within the U.S. Right? GDT price index, there's your dairy thing. And we're going to a whole bunch of other stuff coming up later. But building permits and housing starts in just a few seconds. That's coming out. We're going to leave it at that. Same here in the south of the main Dixie. Consider this another area of the country, dual citizenship. Yeah, I've been down south a few times. I think that's a fair statement, Carlos. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. I'm going to bounce out of here. Here come the housing starts and building permits. I'll be checking back with you in just 30 minutes. We'll see you in about 30 minutes. Everybody have a great morning or afternoon, wherever you happen to be.